In this video, I'm going to show you how to migrate from JSBundling and CSSBundling to Vite in Rails for an existing project. Because it's an existing project, there are a few differences to the normal stock standard way of getting started. But with that being said, let's dive in. So what are we doing? We are going to change from ESBuild to Vite so that we can install or run Inertia, right? So from the docs, it looks like it wants Vite. So we're going to try and do that. I couldn't find any docs online, so I thought let's do a video about it. So first things first, let's jump into our gem file. So what we got when we first started was the JSBundling, right? So we need to get rid of that. And then we also need to get rid of the CSSBundling here, chuck those out. And then what we're going to do is add in the Vite gem. So it's Vite Rails. So it's a specific binding for Rails. Let me just bump that up so everyone can see it nicely. Right, so we got those, we got Vite Rails. And now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna jump in here and we're gonna run bundle. Yep, so we're gonna get rid of JS, CSS bundling, and then add Vite Rails. Okay, let us do its thing. All right, so now once that's done, we can actually jump in and go bundle exec Vite install. All right, so we're gonna run that, it's gonna actually install Vite. So it's gonna set up everything we need. It's going to set up the Vite JSON, creating all the config, and it's done all the things. So let's have a look at what it's actually done here. So it's added these, the Vite Ruby things to the git ignore, and it's ignoring local env files. It's added an entry points application.js file here. So this is very important. We'll come back to that. It's added the bin Vite so it can run Vite. It's done some stuff for content security policy. It's just added that options if we want to do that. The Vite JSON, right, which tells us the root source code directory here. We've got Vite dev and Vite test. We've got our gem file changes. The gem file lock's been updated. And then we've also got some new dependencies, Vite and Vite plugin Ruby, right? So that's done. When we run bin dev, we're going to run Vite and web together. You can see we've got a conflict here, so we're going to need to fix that up. And then here's our Vite config, which is very simple. We're just using a Ruby plugin, and we've got a yarn lock, right? So that's what we've done there with that installation. Okay, so what we need to do is we're using a different location. So if we have a look here, there's no application layout, right, being updated. So we need to look, ours is actually living inside of controllers. So when this installation ran, if you have a standard Rails app, it will work, but we don't. We have it inside of views, and then each version has its own layouts. So we have our application here, right? So this is our application now. So you can still see it's using the old style sheet link tags, and we need to update these. So what we're going to do is we're going to update these into the new Vite tags. So firstly, we're going to add in here Vite client tag, right? So that's to get the hot module reloading, I believe. And then we're also going to add the Vite style sheet tag. And this is going to be application. And we're going to have data turbo track reload, this one here. So it's a little bit different in here. We got this, and we've got turbo track, and this is going to be reload. Yeah, so that's the Vite style sheet tag. And then we're going to add in here a JavaScript tag there, and that's also called application, and that's also a turbo read there. Okay, let's have a look. So we're going to save that, and if we open up our inspector, so we're going to see here inside of the head, we actually won't have that yet. But if we refresh this, okay, we've got to run bin dev. So let's just fix that up first. So we've added those in. Now let's jump into the proc file. Let's go and open that. So we're gonna go proc. Now here's our web. So I want to keep this because I'm running Ruby debug open. I'm running the server, and I'm also binding it. That's so that we can access it in different environments. So I'm gonna get rid of that one. And now we don't need to run JS and CSS anymore because that's using the yarn build. So we're gonna get rid of that, and we're gonna run Vite dev here. Okay, save that. Now we should be able to run this. Bin dev, let's see what happens. Booting up Vite there, Vite's running. Let's just refresh this guy. We're gonna see what happens. Come on, son. Here we go. All right, we're running. Now, oh, there you go. You can see here Vite Rails is running and it's connected. So we kind of got somewhere, but we're not done yet. So if we have a look in here, we can now see that we've got our script to the Vite client. We've got our style sheet running to the application CSS, and we've got our script here. But we do also have the old scripts referenced, right? So this is obviously a problem because we've got multiple scripts doing the same thing. So let's start tidying that up. So the first thing we're going to look at is this entry point. So the entry points is very important. So this is this JavaScript entry points application file here. You can see this is where that console log's coming from, right? So what we want to do is we're going to have entry points we're going to create a new one, because at the moment, actually, we're referencing a style sheet one that doesn't exist. So let's see if the network actually even pulled that up. Yeah, you can see here, right? So this style sheet application CSS is a 404, it doesn't exist. So we need to create that. So to do that, we go here, entry points, right click, new file, and we're going to go application.css. Now, this is what's referenced here, right? So whatever you name this is what you need to name these files. And that's the entry point. So Vite's gonna look in the entry point, and that's where it's gonna start and then go from there. So we are gonna add in two things. What we need to do is we're gonna import Font Awesome, right? The Pro version. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna import, because we're using Tailwind here, our existing Tailwind CSS, which lives in App, Assets, Style Sheets, Tailwind. Now what we can do here is, because we were referencing Font Awesome here, we can actually get rid of this. We don't need that anymore, right? So that can disappear. And we now have Tailwind, so it's going to reference all its good stuff here. And that's basically all we need in the CSS entry point. Now moving on, we've got our JavaScript entry point, which is this one, right? So a lot of stuff here, a lot of examples. But what we want to do is basically jump to the top here, and we're going to just go import, and we're going to go hotwired, and we want to import Turbo Rails. So this is for all our pages that aren't going to be leveraging Inertia, and there's going to be normal Turbo pages. And then we're going to also import from here. We're going to go double back, and we're going to go into the controllers, right? Which is this folder here, which is all our old application. So now, given that we're an existing application with existing things, that's why I'm making this video, because the start from scratch setup is super easy. For us, we've got an existing application, so it took a lot of time to actually get it all going. So now we've got all that done, and we can also now remove our old entry point, right? So this one here, that was actually the entry point for the ESBuild stuff. So we can just chuck that in there in the bin, the JSBundling stuff, I should say, because Vite actually uses ESBuild in the background. So that's removed. Now we should be good there. And then the only other thing that I'm thinking of that we need to do is the Font Awesome stuff. So we actually need to, might break. So Font Awesome, see that we've just removed that thing there, so we can actually go through here now and clean up this. We don't need any of these anymore because we're now just running Vite here. So let's have a look and see what happens. Okay, cool. So we're starting to get errors, but it's good. So we're actually leveraging Vite here for our actual build. So to fix this problem, very easy. So it's in the API base controller. So if we go into the API base controller, and then what we need to do here, so this is referencing style.min, and the other setup was able to pick it up and just chuck the CSS, whereas for some reason Vite doesn't. But if we chuck a CSS file on there, it's good. Now I've got a next problem, right? So we fixed that one, very simple. So just make sure that you have the full file extension. So another thing that actually got me as well was we need to look for the direct upload method. So which we import from active record, direct upload this one. So Vite doesn't support require, which is the old syntax, I believe. So we need to change this. So we need to say import direct upload, and then it's going to be from, and then it's Rails active storage, right? So that's a little change you need that can get you if you're using that. So let's make sure we fix that. Now what we want to do is fix this problem, right? So this is how we are using stimulus controllers, and we're doing basically a glob import, but we're using, it's called ESBuild Rails, I believe, to do that. Doesn't work with Vite. It has its own glob import. So let's jump into that. It is inside of controllers application.js. So this file here. Okay, so what the problem is this. This is this glob import here. See how we're doing these double thing here? Because we basically want to find every file within that. We're going to swap that over into a Vite supported one. So the way this looks is import view component controllers. We're going to say equals, so it's not import, it's const, is equal to import.meta.glob. And we are going to say the same string here, right? So we're going to grab that string, boom, chuck it in there. It's not having a good time with the actual display of it, but that's fine. So now we got that. And then also what we want to do is add a little option here. We're going to say eager true, right? So we're going to chuck that in there. So now this should give us, if we go in here and go view component controllers, hopefully if we get a rebuild, it's going to have a problem. So we've got another one, attachment uploader. We've got another place with the api.min. So let's have a quick search for that and just fix that everywhere. I only fix it in one place. So we got it here. So this needs to be .css. And then this needs to be .css as well, so it can stop crying to us. All right, this is the Font Awesome thing. So we actually need to install that plugin. So what we've done here is, at the moment, we're using Font Awesome through the gem, right? And what we did here is we actually moved it to the package. So I need to just quickly update that. All right, so the ones we're using, basically just drop them in: Font Awesome Pro, SVG Core, and the free brands. That's the one. Now, because Font Awesome Pro is a paid thing, you need to set up your .npmrc file. So it's just a new file, .npmrc. We've already got it. And from there, you're going to define your Font Awesome key so that you can access that, right? So that comes from the environment, like the variables there, just so that we can install it. That's just because Font Awesome is a paid package. But what we can do now is just quickly run yarn. Authentication required. Excellent. So I need to set that up properly. All right, so I just installed Font Awesome there, and now we can see we've got a problem. But guess what? Our app looked not right? There's something broken. So let's have a look at what's going on. So we need to still import out. So obviously something's going wrong with Tailwind, it looks like, because we're not getting dials that we need. We've got our Font Awesome stuff in there. That's great. But some reason our Tailwind stuff's not actually compiling. But here we go. Let's get back to our view component controller. So you can see here, our for each function is not a function. But why? Because we're getting it now as an object. We're not actually getting it through as a array. So because of the ESBuild Rails, we're providing it as an array. So we need to fix that up. Let's go here. So there's our cons. But now what we want to do here is we're going to say we need a little function. So in ESBuild Rails, it has this little function here. Where did I put that? I think we can put it right here actually, which converts the file name to a controller name. So you could see in this one, where is it? Inspect, console. You can see here, like we get this really long name, and that's not what we want to use. We want to have a much shortened name. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to set up this little function. And then to do the loop that we need to do, we need to grab something that looks like this. So it's going to be object.entries, view component controllers for each, and then we're going to grab the name, which is this long string, right? And then the module. We don't actually need this guy anymore. And basically this is what this is saying. It's going to take whatever we get from convert file name and change it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this code, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Cool. So what we're getting now is controller name is convert file to controller name. So it's going to chuck in the name, boom, and it's going to place all this. And then what we're going to end up with, so if we just go console.log here, and if we say name, and then here we're going to have controller name. So it's basically the cleaned up name. Going to have a look in here, and now you can see. So we're going from this ... back blah 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 to just rich text editor, right? Because we're looping through all our view component directories at the moment and pulling the JS out automatically, so we don't have to constantly register controllers. But now we're turning views components user selector controller into user selector. Perfect. So that means we can leverage that and use that in our views, and that's what we're using with the view components. All right. So those are all registered now. So if we go into window.stimulus.router.modules by identifier, there's what we've registered, right? So these are the simple names for all our controllers. Cool. Key piece, very key piece when you're migrating across. All right, so we can also clean up our files. We can get rid of this now. I think we can get rid of esbuild.config. We don't need all this. So there's that ESBuild Rails plugin we were using. So we can get rid of that. I don't think we need this anymore. I think we have to fix up our Tailwind config here. And what we need to do is actually start including a few extra directories. So we've got app JavaScript.js, which is cool. So let's have a look. But we also have to do, I think it's JavaScript, and then we need to do the CSS. But let's have a look. Yep. So I think just above this one here, we're going to drop in app JavaScript CSS file so that it passes the actual CSS file. Now let's just rebuild from scratch just to make sure that Tailwind change gets picked up, and hopefully it does. Okay, so it can't find fontawesome.css. So that's going to come from somewhere. We just have to figure out where that one's coming from. Which one is it? Fontawesome.css. Where do you reference? Oh, this is from the manifest here, right? So we don't need this anymore. Boom. Sayonara. Okay. So still not looking right. Something's not registering. Let's just make sure that application CSS picked up. There's probably one more thing missing here. I've documented it all, but I've managed to forget something. Post CSS. All right, so the missing piece, funnily enough, I don't know why I thought it wasn't, but it's, oh yeah, Tailwind 3.4, perfect. So what we need to do is add in the post.css.config.js file, and then we just need to export this, plugins, and the Tailwind CSS and auto prefixer. Now, when we save that, restart the server, boom, we're in business, right? So we've just successfully moved from JSBundling, CSSBundling to Vite, which just makes config a lot simpler, allows us to use Inertia, which is the reason we did this. One other thing you need to also have a look at is the way we reference, this is just a little gotcha, so it's a little secret Easter egg, but where we do BG URL like this, right? So in Tailwind, we're referencing an asset path. That doesn't work. So if we have a look in here, if we jump into this project, you can see there's no background here. There's meant to be a background image. And the fix like took me ages to get it, but hopefully it helps you, is we just have to add the assets here, right? And then Vite will actually do it. I hope we'll have to do it on the dark mode one as well. Hopefully, gonna work. No. Assets, BG URL, that should do it. Let's have a look what's going on. If we're still getting a fail, let's have a look at our image. So it can't find it, 404. You know why it's not working? It's just when you're such a noodle. I'm in the wrong component. So let's try and find it again. I think I've used this file in too many places. So let's just have a look. It's inside of the project. Project management, and it is in the thumbnail preview. Project manager, not thumbnail editor. Could it be this one? It's in the left sidebar. Got it going on too many times. All right, I think I found it. Here we go. We've used the same asset because we're kind of lazy. We don't have other ones. There we go. Right, so now we're loading. That's all happening because we've given it that kind of the right path. It knows to look in that place and it's all rendered perfectly. All right, so that is Vite up and running, which means now we can take the next step and actually install Inertia and have a great time. But I wanted to cover this because I could not find documentation and it took me ages to do it. So hopefully it helps someone out there. But until the next time, catch you later.